Welcome to the EIQ Men podcast, formerly known as the Erectile Dysfunction Radio podcast, where we tackle the facts, debunk the myths, and provide real solutions to help you take control of your sexual health and confidence. I am Mark Goldberg, certified sex therapist and host of the show. For any men who are serious about resolving erectile dysfunction or other sexual challenges, we encourage you to visit our website, eiqmen.com. You'll find additional resources, and you can reach out to us directly with any questions that you have, or you can schedule a 15-minute complimentary Zoom call with myself or one of the other team members. We're passionate about helping out, so please do not hesitate to reach us. Today, on this episode, our guest is Jeff Abraham. Jeff is the CEO of Absorption Pharmaceuticals, the parent company of the prominent sexual wellness brand known as Promescent. He's a seasoned entrepreneur and has transitioned into the wellness industry after a successful career as a semiconductor executive and business owner. Under his leadership, he transformed Promescent from a niche medical product into a global retail brand available in major stores like Target and Walmart. He is widely recognized for his mission to destigmatize sexual health and for his advocacy of science-backed, doctor-recommended solutions for both men and women. Jeff, thank you very much for being with us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yep. So today we want to talk about libido. Popular topic, comes up a lot in the men's sexual health space. We want to get your take on it, understand your approach, having been in this field for quite some time, as well as learn if Promescent is involved in the space of helping men to enhance or improve on libido challenges. So to get us started here, just help our listeners understand your perspective. For the average man, what is the actual difference between what we'll call natural age-related decline in libido and a clinical issue that requires intervention or requires some kind of lifestyle change?
Being 68 years of age myself and having gone through 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and now 60s, I will tell you that there is a aging process that diminishes libido. You know, it's like a running joke that when you're, 15 to 22 years old, the wind blowing makes you aroused, that kind of stuff. Breathing makes you aroused, and that's true. Then you get into your 30s and 40s and you still have an active libido, but certainly not like that. And you get in your 60s and, your libido is definitely, you pretty much have to be focused on something to have libido. Morning erections, those types of things tend to diminish as you age. And the idea that you're just always ready to roll is just not common among most average 60, 70-year-old men. That being said, libido is very complex. A lot of people look at libido, and like you say, there's a difference between just the actual function and as it diminishes with age, and maybe in some cases someone has a physiological issue with libido, maybe low testosterone, something like that, where you don't get aroused. If it starts early and it's pretty consistent, even when you're with a partner, you don't have the proper libido, you need to see a physician for a workup, whether it be someone in the psychology area or someone in the medical practice area, to determine if there's a underlying physiological reason. If there isn't, then I think there's ways to naturally enhance libido. And it's something that we take very seriously. From talking to a lot of people who find solutions through PE and other issues, in some cases, they look at it, my libido increased. I don't look at it like if you cure someone who has chronic PE, that you're necessarily increasing libido. I think it's just natural that when you feel more confident about your sexual ability, you have more sexual desire, because you can't wait to be intimate, because hopefully you're going to have a satisfactory end result in pleasing your partner and having a quality orgasm yourself. If there's anxiety because you have an issue, then I think you're going to have less libido, because there's a reasonable chance that having an encounter will lead to an unsatisfactory conclusion. It's almost like anxiety or stage fright. So I think the more sexually confident you are, that it gives you increased desire, which some people interpret as libido, but I think it's just more of a comfort level, and it's more of a confidence that you will be able to perform both for your own satisfaction as well as achieving your partner. We do have certain products that enhance libido. There's one in particular in both men and women. It's called VitaFlux. It's a nitric oxide supplement. It has L-carnitine, citrulline, and L-arginine, and zinc and magnesium. So what it does is it increases blood flow. When it increases blood flow, it decreases blood pressure. Anytime you have blood flow, it doesn't go necessarily strictly to your feet, your hands, it goes through your entire body. When you have blood flow to your genitals, it causes arousal. So a lot of people use that particular product, VitaFlux, both men and women, specifically for libido, for arousal, because they tend to have sex more frequently and have the urge and the desire more because the genitals are engorged with blood. It's interesting because this particular product has a lot of non-sexual benefits. Every vein and artery in our body is covered with an epithelial layer. And what that layer is purporting to do is it keeps bad stuff out, viruses and bacteria. When you're young, it's very supple. And it allows hormones, vitamins, and minerals to absorb. As we age, for most people, late 30s, early 40s, that layer hardens. When it hardens, it gets really even better at keeping bad stuff out, but it starts keeping good stuff out. So hormones don't absorb, vitamins don't absorb, minerals don't absorb quite as well. That's why the average male and female after the late 30s lose 0.5% of lean muscle tissue every year and gain 0.5% of body fat if they just do everything the same. That's not because your body's wasting away or there's something inherently wrong. That's because you have less hormone absorption and you start losing lean muscle and start gaining body fat. But in addition, it promotes blood flow. When you promote blood flow, you have better erections, you have more arousal. And a lot of people, that transitions to libido. If you feel your, private parts engorged with blood, you feel arousal, then you feel in the mood for intimacy, which translates to libido. So that particular product is specifically designed to decrease body fat, increase lean muscle, increase blood flow. For men, you have better erections and you have higher libido. For women, you have higher libido, but we have hundreds of women that use that product specifically alone because they lose the ability to naturally moisturize after they reach their late 30s, early 40s, and then they start going through menopause, which exacerbates it. So that's a particular product that people love for libido enhancement.
Okay, so I want to shift a little bit over to libido issues that young men face, because I know Promescent, primarily focuses on PE, which not always, but in many instances is common among younger men.
Yes.
Less common among older men, but it certainly can occur. I've seen plenty of that myself. But when it comes to libido in the younger men, the data seems to be indicating, and anecdotally we're seeing more and more of this, that male libido and testosterone levels are lower than they have been in previous generations. And I wanted to get your take on that. What do you make of that? What do you think are the primary drivers of lower libido and lower testosterone in younger men?
I think part of it is, this is one person's opinion, but it's built through knowledge of talking to people and seeing who buys our product and talking to a lot of our customers who have these issues. I think a lot of lower libido comes from people in general of the younger generation aren't really motivated to interact with the opposite sex. I know a lot of people that, especially 30 and younger, that will not take an office job. They require to work remote. They also get their meals delivered by Uber Eats and Grubhub. They literally don't leave the house. One of our newer products, you'll laugh when I call it, is called Go Solo. It's a men's masturbatory cream. We were selling so many men's masturbatory toys and different things that it blew me away. And then we started asking people, a lot of our customers, they fill out our customer surveys so we know the age range. And these are men 18, 20, 24, 26, 30. And there tends to be this disassociation with relationships, disassociation with just being social anymore, in wanting to have everything done within the home, not even leaving the home, whether it's shopping on Amazon and getting that Amazon Prime shipment to your doorstep, whether it's Uber Eats, whether it's working remote. So I think in some cases, libido can be tied to interacting with the opposite sex, to being stimulated, to seeing visually someone you're attracted to. And I think there's a large segment of our under 30 population that isn't out and about anymore, that isn't being stimulated and aroused by the opposite sex, that they're buying men's masturbatory toys and not leaving the home. So I'm not sure whether I believe that there's a huge decrease, unless it would be something in the way people are eating, or the way that, there's some change in hormone levels among younger people these days, that it would be so much a physiological thing. Is I think it's more of a social thing, where people just aren't interacting with the opposite sex, and people just aren't used to having to go out and woo someone and feel that feeling of wanting to mate with someone rather than be self-satisfying.
Okay, now I want to move over to, you mentioned blood flow playing a role in libido. What about things like diet, exercise, sleep quality? In your experience, or with the men that you've interacted with, or that you serve or service, I should say, do you find that any of those factors have an impact on libido?
Absolutely, without a doubt. I'm glad you touched on that. I know from my own experience, having been on the planet for a while and talking to my friends and some of our customers, when you don't sleep well, you lose alertness, you lose libido, you lose energy, you lose everything. Sleep is such a core component of health. And a lot of people stay up late watching TV, surfing the internet, doing whatever, and they still get up early to do whatever they need to do. I know for me personally, I function better with 7 or more hours of sleep a night. And I can tell the difference. If I get 5 hours of sleep the following day, my energy level, my focus, my libido are all diminished. And we have people that do this over a long period of time. And I think a lot of health-related issues or sleep-related issues. Gee, I can't focus. I can't, my libido's down. My this is down. I think everything, including your testosterone level, if you're exhausted and you're fatigued, I think all of your hormone levels and all of your markers physically are going to be affected. I have no doubt about that. I think diet plays a huge part in it. If you eat a lot of fatty foods, if you're somewhat overweight, you're going to have some blood pressure issues. You're going to have some plaque in your arteries. Anytime you have plaque in your arteries, you decrease blood flow. That is going to lead to less quality erections. By the same token, when you work out on a regular basis, I know for me, I went on a 6.5 mile walk early today. I do every single morning, and I eat really, really healthy. I know that I'm better as a father, as a grandfather, as a mate, as an employer, when I'm working out and I'm eating right and I'm feeling better. Those endorphins and that just confidence about yourself plays in to how I view myself. I think one of the hidden parts of libido is confidence. If you have confidence in yourself, you feel like on top of your game, you feel like you're a sexual being who's pleasuring a partner, I think it leads to confidence. I think it leads to what appears to be more libido, but what it really is the fact that you're giving out this signal to other people that I'm confident, that I'm happy, and people go, I want a piece of that. When you're not in a relationship, when maybe you're not working out, you're not eating right, you're 20, 30 pounds overweight, your shoulders are slumped, you're walking around, people might think, oh, you have low libido, but you're giving away this signal to other people that you're not positive, and who wants to be a part of that? I always laugh. I tell people, because sometimes people say, when I'm not in a relationship, I can't buy a date. When I get in a relationship and I'm happy, all of a sudden everybody wants to date me. And they act like that's some kind of phenomenon that no one can figure out. It's not. It's strictly because when you're in a relationship and you're happy and you're fulfilled and you feel like you're satisfying someone else, you're walking around with an aura of confidence. You're walking around with a feeling that other people are like, hey, I want a piece of that. Whatever it is that's fueling him, I want to glom onto that. When you're walking around with your shoulders slumped and you're unhappy and you're figuring, oh, I can't find anyone, I'm not worthy, who wants a piece of that? The answer is no one. So I think a lot of what we consider to be libido, now certainly there are reasons for low libido that are physiological. But sometimes we get to a point where someone might have low libido, and it's really, and if you take lab tests, you're not going to find anything substantially wrong. What you'll find is it's a lack of self-confidence. It's a lack of a good feeling about yourself. And then you start almost internalizing that you're not worthy of intimacy. You're not worthy of having a partner, that kind of a thing. So not to diminish the fact that there are people who legitimately suffer from low libido, whether it's low testosterone or different levels that a qualified physician can help you with. But let's not think that everyone who thinks that they have a low libido is clinically, low on certain hormone levels. In some cases, it's a lack of self-confidence. So the first thing to do is determine the etiology. Is it a physiological thing, or is it more of a lifestyle way you view yourself that's leading you to believe that you're not worthy of intimacy, which is in your own mind translating to, gee, my libido's low.
So, Jeff, I want to kind of use this as a segue to talk a little bit more about the psychology that goes into seeking help, whether it's for low libido or for other issues like PE or ED or whatnot. So how does the psychological weight of like manhood, masculinity, or like ego prevent men from seeking help, especially when they realize that like libido is fading or they're facing some other problem?
I think for the longest time that we've tried to change this conversation, and we've been somewhat successful, and we still have a long way to go, where for whatever reason, men feel uncomfortable. And I think sometimes comedians use PE as a joke, you know what I mean? And there's all these old wives' tales out there like that a man who has PE really doesn't care about his partner, doesn't want to satisfy his partner, and is insensitive. There could be nothing further from the truth. Dealing with people that suffer from PE literally daily, there's nothing they want to do more than to last longer and satisfy their partner. Okay. It's not a lack of concern for the partner. It's not a lack of empathy for the partner. It's not a selfish feeling whatsoever. And I always tell people, and I use this and it resonates with people, would a diabetic ever be ashamed or self-conscious about using insulin? The answer is no. Would someone with cancer ever be ashamed or feel self-conscious about using chemo? The answer is no. So why is it that if somebody has PE, and let's be real clear, there's 4 or 5 different drivers physiologically of PE: hypersensitivity to the penile nerves, prostatitis, low testosterone, could be many different things. So why is it that we're so self-conscious about seeking help? And so many people don't go to a doctor. They're embarrassed. So they literally look on the internet. They look online for answers, for remedies, for trials, these kind of things that they can help address it with. So we've had this double-pronged approach where we're real strong in the medical community. We have a lot of ties and we reach out, but we also realize there's a lot of people that don't go to the doctor, that want to self-diagnose and find something. So there's these two completely separate subsets that you really have to address, both the medical end, so physicians can refer people, and people that are too embarrassed, to go to the physician and tell them, hey, I last 30 seconds, I'm not satisfying my partner.
Jeff, I'm wondering if you have a take on the modern technology that we're facing with, social media, adult content, the ease of access to these kind of materials, how that impacts dopamine, and how that like constant like stimulation may be impacting men's libido, but also other sexual function challenges.
I truly believe that I'm glad I grew up in the era that I grew up in, and I'm not coming into my sexual awakening at 14, 15, 16 right now. I think to a large degree, I can answer that 2 different ways. Number one, early on, I think the majority of youth now has watched porn prior to the first time they're ever intimate, because people are generally intimate 15, 16, 17. People have phones now at 10, 11, or 12. And if you look at porn prior to the first time you're intimate, and you start believing that the average male has a 10-inch penis, it's the circumference of a beer can that lasts 45 minutes, right before he's ready to ejaculate, he jumps off, runs to the other side of the room, and shoots his partner right in the forehead from 30 feet away. You're going to not have a realistic expectation of what intimacy is. If you believe from watching Elizabeth Berkley and Showgirls that an average female orgasm is her on the side of the pool with Kyle MacLachlan flopping around like a fish out of water, you're going to go, geez, my partner just had, a regular natural orgasm and didn't have an outer body experience. You're going to be very disappointed. I also think that the proliferation of porn and the fact that it's free and it's everywhere, as long as you have any device, and who doesn't have some type of device, it does lead to unrealistic expectations, and it leads to a lot more masturbation and then the more you masturbate, the less desire you have to find a partner. When you look at these studies about how younger people are not engaging and having relationships with people of the opposite sex, I don't think there's any doubt that part of that is because there's so much access to pornography. And if you're masturbating quite frequently, you don't have the same level of desire to go out and find a partner if you're self-satisfying. So I think to answer your question, the expectation level on one creates anxiety, especially among young people who go, well, I'm not as good as that person. Every single young man doesn't look at Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or LeBron James and go, that's my definition of how I should play basketball. Therefore, we should not look at Johnny Sins and all these porn stars and go, that's how I should make love. Those are people that are above and beyond, that have physical differentiators that we normal people don't have. So I believe, number one, it starts there, but I believe also that you don't have to find a partner, like in my day, to have intimacy, to have frequent orgasms. I remember when I was young, it was still looked at as there's something wrong with you if you masturbate. Like, oh my God, because I'm 68. When I was 14, it was like, you'll go blind. I swear to God, that's what people used to say.
Yeah, we've covered that topic in the past. We probably should revisit it again, but
yes,
a lot of mythology around masturbation.
A lot of mythology. And, if that was the case, only 1% of people would have eyesight. You know what I mean? Like right now.
I'm not sure it'd be that high.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's 1% that says they don't masturbate will lie. 100% of people would be, blind. So it's one of these things that I think is twofold. Number one, creates the unrealistic expectations. Number two, that people rather go, hey, I have to go find a partner to have a part of my life, to have intense, frequent orgasms that I enjoy. That's no longer necessary. Not only do we have the ability, now people have AI girlfriends. I'm like, oh my God, what else is scarier than that? Or boyfriends, where you can create your ideal imaginary lover. And then I know it's part of the business. You have to be there. We've developed a line of masturbatory toys for both men and women, and they are huge sellers. And we are now to the point where we're developing lotions specifically designed for masturbation that last a little bit longer. You don't have to reapply, that don't chafe, that kind of stuff. So there's a segment of our population that is outsourcing meal delivery. They don't go to restaurants anymore. Grubhub, Uber Eats. They don't shop. Amazon Prime and all these other Temu and whatever they are, Zappos deliver your goods right to your door. We're getting to a point where we're going to have people that don't leave their house for 30 days at a time.
Yep. And look, there's no question that these mediums are highly stimulating and less anxiety provoking than having to engage with other people. Obviously, there's a huge detractor when it comes to that. But do you find that these technologies are actually impacting libido? Because men who engage in self-stimulation still oftentimes have pretty pronounced libido. Do you see a link or a connection between the technology and a decrease in libido?
Yeah, I would say yes, only because libido to me, in some cases, comes from a buildup. Libido is you're anticipating something. You don't have to anticipate anything anymore. You don't have to go, oh my God, Tuesday night, we have this date night where I'm going to have, and you have this buildup. Right now, someone goes, I feel the slightest twinge or the slightest desire. They log on, masturbate, and be done with it. And then, so the buildup, the anticipation, which is a lot of libido, which is the whole process of mating. no longer exists for a lot of people. It's become instant gratification.
That's a really important point. I don't think I've ever like really thought about or heard it in that, way that libido is really a buildup.
Yeah.
That's like a big part of what feeds certainly long-term libido. And with these devices that everybody's walking around with, you get a hankering for something, and in a moment's notice, you could have it basically in front of you.
Oh, I remember, of course, I'm 68. In high school, it'd be like, oh, Friday night, I have a date. Hopefully, I mean, it shows how old I am. I can get a hand job. I can get maybe a blow job. You know what I mean? It was like the holy grail. I couldn't wait. You know what I mean? Like, I'd be counting down the days. Right now, someone starts thinking about sex, and right now they go, I'm going to log on right now, rub one out. You know what I mean? And it's crazy. It's things, I always say whenever something good comes along, and certainly the internet, online, banking, and everything is very positive. And certainly having access to porn is nothing wrong with it. But the pendulum is never in the middle. We go from not having any access whatsoever to being 24/7. And
Unfettered access, yeah.
it's insane. It's absolutely insane. And I'm in a perfect position to see it because I see the products that we sell, and I see the age of these people and people my age. And, I'm 68, and I always use this analogy that when you're 18 or 14 to 25, you're a machine gun, just firing bullets all over the place. You don't have to worry about, hey, I got to make sure I have a perfect shot. Then you're 25 to 35 and you're a semi-automatic rifle. Then you're 45 to 55 and you're a rifle. I tell people right now I'm a musket. Remember the Revolutionary War? You have to put the powder in, put the steak in, you know what I mean? I go right now after an orgasm, I need a night's sleep, a workout, 3 meals. Okay, then I'm ready to go again 24 hours later. So I cherish every single encounter that I can have, with my partner, that I'm not in that situation like a lot of younger people are to go, hey, the next one's coming along in 10 minutes, and I think for them that the idea of, of cherishing each and every experience doesn't exist,
Yeah, it's a really, really great point. I definitely appreciate that. Jeff, I definitely want to have you back on the podcast to discuss, PE, and I think you just bring a really, really interesting take to all of this. But before we wrap up, I just want to know if you have any closing words to any man who's listening to this who might be feeling, ashamed or broken or embarrassed about like reaching out for help, or might feel alone or isolated with like issues like low libido or whatnot. What would you say to them?
I would say the following: you're not alone. As a matter of fact, if we be honest about it, the majority of people at some point in their life experience ED, experience PE, maybe not chronically, but a lot chronically, but at least sporadically. You're not alone. There are people like yourself out there that are dedicated to helping people have better intimacy. But you can't get better without A, acknowledging it, and B, seeking help. And don't think that you have to do this online. I wish I was kidding, but I'm not. If you do searches for PE, you'll find thousands of products, probably which 3 or 4 are legitimate. If you search for ED solutions or low libido solutions, you'll find thousands of solutions. The majority of them are snake oil, lemon juice, some guy doing it in his garage, complete trash, playing on people's anxiety, playing on people's, just shame. What you need to do is educate yourself. See a therapist, see a urologist, seek help from someone who really and truly is trained in this area, and they're compassionate, and they can give you the tools to help you out. I can't tell you how many people come to our site and then I have conversations with them because I'll send them an email. I talked to somebody this morning, believe it or not. I had noticed him and he filled out one of our Zig polls, said he was 92. I'm like, oh my God. So I sent him a nice little email and said, my man, you give me hope. I'm 68 and I'm starting to wind down at 92. That's really, and I put my number. He called me this morning. He's in Texas and I'm in West Coast. So it was like 6 a.m. this morning, but I didn't mind. I don't think he knew where I was. And I had this conversation, but he said, I was disappointed. So many times I bought a product and it didn't delivered. And I think what a lot of people do is they try to self-diagnose. They find one of these scammy products and they put everything else in that category. All these things don't work. It's so hard to differentiate yourself when you do have legitimate science-based products that work, because everyone else makes the same claims, even though they don't have efficacy and they're not a good product. That's why it's important to seek a qualified professional, a physician, a therapist that has been trained and knows how to differentiate legitimate products from bogus products. Because we don't want people to try something, go, oh, these don't work, therefore I have to suffer the rest of my life with something. And there's a lot of people that go asexual. They're so tired of being disappointing other people, they just basically tune out and go, I'm not going to be intimate. I'm not going to have relations with another person. It's very important to seek help, to do your due diligence, to know the wheat from the chaff, to separate legitimate products with science-based solutions from complete, utter rubbish. And when you do, you'll find you can get back into a regular relationship and have satisfactory relationships with your partner.
Jeff, that was fantastic. I really thank you for your time. This message is so important to get out to our listeners, and I do look forward to having you back on the podcast. I do want to cover some of the other areas that Promescent does focus on, obviously, especially PE, but we'll have you back for another episode.
I can't tell you how much I appreciate this.